We continue our journey with the holy words of W.E.B, DuBois, and James Cone. And today I'm reading, and will be for a few days, from Cone's book, The Cross and the Lynching Tree. Powerful work. Today I'm going to be reading some selections from chapter 2, The Terrible Beauty of the Cross and the Tragedy of the Lynching Tree. And this chapter is primarily, the subtitle of which is A Reflection on Reinhold Niebuhr. The lynching tree, so strikingly similar to the cross on Golgotha, should have a prominent place in American images of Jesus' death, but it does not. In fact, the lynching tree has no place in American theological reflections about Jesus' cross or in the proclamation of Christian churches about his passion. The conspicuous absence of the lynching tree in American theological discourse and preaching is profoundly revealing, especially since the crucifixion was clearly a first-century lynching. What accounts for the contradictions in Niebuhr's perspective on race? In part, they are due to his failure to step into black people's shoes and walk around in them. To use the words of Atticus Finch in Harper Lee's classic To Kill a Mockingbird, it was easy for Niebuhr to walk around in his own shoes as a white man and view the world from that vantage point. But it takes a whole lot of empathetic effort to step into those of black people and to see the world through the eyes of African Americans. Niebuhr had eyes to see black suffering, but I believe he lacked the heart to feel it as his own. Although he wrote many essays about race, commenting on a variety of racial issues in America and in Africa and Asia, the problem of race was never one of his central theological or political concerns. It has always been difficult for white people to empathize fully with the experience of black people, but it has never been impossible. Like most whites, Niebuhr did not realize the depth of black despair because he did not listen to Malcolm X or other black nationalists who were speaking at Temple No. 7 and in the streets of Harlem, only a few blocks away. Had he turned on the radio or television, he could have heard the eloquent and powerful voice of Malcolm talking about the limits of the bourgeois civil rights movement and its leaders. Malcolm was not interested in proximate justice defined by liberal whites. The price of freedom is death, he told Harlem blacks. While King was having a dream, Malcolm told a reporter shortly after King's 1963 March on Washington address, "The rest of us Negroes are having a nightmare." Thus, the nightmare in black life continued to deepen as progressive whites like Niebuhr remained silent about lynching. But Niebuhr did not mention it, finding it apparently not of substantial concern. This was a serious failure by an American religious leader, often called this nation's greatest theologian. How could anyone be a great theologian and not engage America's greatest moral issue? Unfortunately, white theologians then and since have typically ignored the problem of race or written and spoken about it without urgency, not regarding it as critical for theology or ethics. James Baldwin was relentless in his critique of white Americans for failing to live up to their own political and religious traditions about love and justice, even saying that Negroes were the only Christians and the only hope for the country. Baldwin says, "The only people in this country at the moment who believe either in Christianity or in the country are the most despised minority in it. It's ironical. The people who were slaves here, the most beaten and despised people here, should be at this moment the only hope this country has. It doesn't have any other. None of the descendants of Europe seem to be able to do it, or have taken it on themselves to do what Negroes are now trying to do. And this is not a chauvinistic or racial outlook. It probably has something to do with the nature of life itself. It forces you in any extremity, any extreme, to discover what you really live by, whereas most Americans have been for so long so safe, so sleepy, that they don't any longer have any real sense of what they live by. I think they really think it may be Coca-Cola. Peace and blessings on the way.